Most letters are written to people. This one is different. This one was written to a place. And if you have been here since the beginning, if you know the name of the flat rock, and the man who sat on it every morning, and the child who gave him a crawfish in a jar, then I think you will understand why. Some places deserve to be thanked. Good evening. I'm Sedalia Voss. I have one more letter for you tonight, the last one of this season. It arrived differently than the others. No cedar box, no shoe box, no journal tucked inside a wall. This one came in an ordinary envelope, postmarked Nashville, Tennessee, 1962. The return address was a street with a modest row of houses. The name on it was careful and unhurried, the penmanship of someone who had learned it properly and never forgotten. Inside was a single folded page. At the top, in the same careful hand, "To the Valley, from someone who owes it everything." The letter is not signed with a full name, just initials. L.M.C. Lottie Marshall Calloway, Evie's sister, Thomas's mother, 75 years old in 1962, writing from Nashville to a valley she had left decades before and never entirely stopped carrying. I do not know what prompted her to write it when she did. Perhaps she felt time moving. Perhaps she had been reading her mother's letters. Perhaps something smaller, a particular slant of autumn light, a jar glimpsed in a store window, had opened a door she had been keeping closed for years. What I know is that she wrote it, and that she wrote it honestly. Pull the covers up. The fire is lit. What we owe the valley. Part 1. What I remember. To the valley. I don't know how to begin a letter to a place. I have written a great many letters in my life, to my sister Evie every week for 30 years, to my son Thomas when he was surveying the mountains, to my grandchildren who are scattered now in ways I did not anticipate. I know how to begin a letter to a person, but you are not a person. You are something harder to address, and something I owe more to, and so I am going to do my best. I left you when I was 17 years old. I went to Nashville because there was a young man there I decided to love, and I did love him, and I do not regret it. But the leaving was also fear. I had confused the smallness of a valley with a small life, and I have known for most of the 60 years since that I was wrong. What I remember the river in the early morning, before anyone else was up. The particular sound it made in winter, harder and yet more deliberate, as if it had somewhere to be. My mother used to say it always knew what it was doing. I think she was right. I remember the flat rock, Clara's Rock, she called it, named for herself without embarrassment, the way she did most things. I used to sit there as a girl and watch the water move and think about everything I was going to do and everywhere I was going to go. I thought of it as a beginning. I did not understand yet that it was also enough. I remember Calhoun Reed. I was too young when he died to understand what I was losing. I understood later. I understood it the way you understand most things that matter. slowly, over years, in the accumulation of smaller understandings that eventually add up to the large one. He was the valley made into a person, still, patient, generous. That is the only way I know how to say it. I have tried most of my life to be more like that. I have not always succeeded, but I have tried. Part 2. What I missed. I missed your autumns most. Nashville has seasons, but they are not your seasons. They do not have the same quality of burning, that slow, top-down fire along the ridgelines that my sister Evie once described as something you could warm your hands over. I have read that line so many times in her letters that I can see it without closing my eyes. I miss the store, my grandmother's store, and then my parents' store. The smell of it, the particular sound the floorboards made in the third aisle, the way my mother moved behind the counter with the efficiency of someone who had done it for so long it had become a kind of music. I missed the way the valley paid attention. That is a strange thing to say about a place, but it did. It noticed when someone was struggling and sent a neighbor. When someone arrived with nothing, it made room. When something needed remembering, it found a way to keep it. I did not have words for that when I was 17. I had places to go. Now I have all the words, and I want to use them while I still can. Part 3. What you gave. I want to tell you what you gave me, not what you gave the people who stayed, though I know what you gave them, and it was considerable, but what you gave me, who left. You gave me a mother who knew the difference between accurate and good, and said so without apology. You gave me a father who named a dog with one quiet word and never needed to explain himself. You gave me a sister who came home when she was ready and stayed and taught children arithmetic in the same schoolhouse where her own mother had been a student. You gave me a son who came back to you, Thomas. I remember the letter he sent me from the mountains when he had been on a survey crew for years, and something had finally shifted in him. He asked me if the valley would have him back. He wrote it carefully, like he wasn't sure of the answer. I did not know what Evie would say, but I knew what you would say. You always kept what came to you honestly. You kept Calhoun Reed, my sister, and my son. And somehow, even from Nashville, even across 60 years, you kept something in me, too. A belief, held quietly, that rivers are patient, and that this is not a small thing. Part 4. What I want to say. I am not coming back. I know that now. Nashville is where my life has been, and I do not have another move in me. But I wanted you to know that I know what you were. I wanted you to know that the jar on the rock has meant something to me every October for 60 years, even from far away. That I think about it when the first cold comes. That I am glad that someone always places it. That I hope someone always will. I wanted you to know that I told my grandchildren about you. About the flat rock and the river and the man who sat on it every morning and the child who gave him something in a jar. They are young and they live scattered, and I do not know if any of them will ever find their way to you. But I told them. Because stories needed to be carried even by people who were never inside them. I wanted to thank you, for my mother, for my sister, for my son, for the way the light comes off the water in October, for keeping what came to you, for being the kind of place a person can owe everything to, and still leave, and still carry, and at 75 years old, sit down to write a letter to. With gratitude and love, L.M.C. Epilogue. A note from Sedalia. I folded Lottie Marshall Calloway's letter carefully, and I put it back in its envelope. Then I sat with it for a while. I have held a great many letters in my time, found journals, water-stained and slim, shoe boxes and cedar boxes and plain envelopes postmarked from cities and mountains and train stations. I have read the words of men who walked into valleys and stayed, and women who left and came back, and boys who needed a sign to tell them where they belonged, and old soldiers who learned, late and imperfectly, that stillness was not defeat. Every one of those letters came from the same place, not Harlan's Hollow exactly, from the part of a person that knows some things deserve to be kept, that kindness given freely travels further than the hand that offered it, that rivers are patient, that the valley keeps. This is the end of the first season, but it is not the end of the stories. There are more. There are always more. I will bring them to you. Rest now. The season is sealed. I'm Sedalia Voss, and I will find you again. Good night.